I realized in 2020 how really disconnected Christians were, not just in the church, but also in businesses. Our Christian business leaders had no impact on COVID because they were siloed, they were by themselves. They didn't have really, for my purposes, a broader network to push back on COVID insanity and COVID tyranny. Nocturnal.
Friends, welcome back to the Caleb Gordon Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Gordon. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be a part of the program today. Listen, before we jump into the conversation today, I want to just say thanks to our friends at Revo Financial. Do you have a plan for your money? Do you have a plan for your retirement? Do you have a plan for your trust? Do you have a plan for any of your investments? Are you worried about the investments that you're going to be connected with something that maybe is not going to line up with your morals or your ethics? Well, you don't have to worry about that with Revo Financial. They're going to take care of all of the details, and you will never invest in something you don't believe in personally. Check them out at revofinancial.com. Revo Financial. Well, on the program today, I sit down with my friend Gabe Rench. He is the founder of the Business Makers Network, as well as the Fight Laugh Feast conference. He is just an entrepreneur at heart, and he has a desire to want to help Christians expand business, expand the kingdom, and see Christ made much of in all of those areas. The conversation we have just really gives us some breakdown information as to what the Business Maker Network is. It came out of COVID, and so there's so many different restrictions and things that took place. And I think that this is going to help so many people that are entrepreneurs, that are CEOs. And if you're interested in wanting to know more about what's going on, you can just check out what's happening here at the Business Maker Network. You can click the link right here, and we'll see you at the conference. Welcome to the Caleb Gordon Podcast, Mr. Gabriel Rench. How in the world are you doing, my friend?
Caleb, thanks for having me on your show, man. Appreciate it.
It's take three. It's fine,
Hey, I'm normal. I was being normal. I'm a good actor.
I know. It's fine. Man, we'll dispense with all of the fun. Hey, what's your weather like? Because we know it's cold in Idaho. So
it's above 60, which is summertime for us. I can tan in this weather.
Yeah, tan, and you're wearing shorts. You're out there to go and jump in a swimming pool. So
that's right. That's right.
Hey, okay, so I brought you on the show. You're coming to Bartlesville, Oklahoma, June 19th and 20th for the Business Maker Summit. You've been doing this all over the country. You were in Nashville a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Washington. I mean, several different places you're going. And the idea is for other Christians to get together, network together, hear other Christian CEOs talk on the subject matter that is at hand, which is running Christian businesses, running business in general. And my hope is I want to try to put you up here so you can tell your story, tell what your goal is for the Business Maker Summit. So
Business Makers Summit came out of Business Makers Network, which came out of really the story started for me in 2020. And I realized in 2020 how really disconnected Christians were, not just in the church, but also in businesses. Our Christian business leaders had no impact on COVID because they were siloed, they were by themselves. They didn't have for my purposes, a broader network to push back on COVID insanity and COVID tyranny. And so long story short, some of your listeners might already know this, but I was arrested for protesting COVID tyranny in our town. President Trump retweeted it. And because of that, I had a bunch of actually Christian business leaders reach out to me and say, hey, do you have a Christian network that I can be a part of? Because I'm all by myself in COVID and I have no help. I have no encouragement. I need courageous leaders around me. So that's where the seed was planted for me in 2020. And then we do our national Fight Laugh Feast conference, fightlaughfeast.com. And our next conference is in October. And we started doing a pre-conference for business leaders at our Fight Laugh Feast conference, and we'd get about 200 or so to sign up for the pre-conference. Well, so we started basically kind of ministering to business leaders through our conference, our pre-conference. And then I was like, because of 2020, because of what was happening with our national conference and business leaders we were working with, I was like, man, we really should just bring a network and bring these business leaders together
Yeah.
and create a Christian network. So um, the goal of Business Makers Network is to bring Christian leaders together, all the way from employees, all the way to CEOs that manage more than $20 million a year. You can go to businessmakers.network to see the tiers and what we're doing. And you can also go to businessmakers.network to see the event we're doing in Bartlesville. But as part of the network, I was like, man, it has to be a goal. We have to bring regional business leaders together. They have to know each other. They have to fellowship with each other. They have to be just
Yeah.
a little effort to make some good friends, a little effort to build out and be a stronger community as the church in their region, whether they're the
Oh,
same church or not, kind of thing.
yes.
If you think about this, in a lot of ways, business leaders are the tip of the spear for the gospel for the church, because they're out in the community. They're out, a CEO is managing, let's say 200 families, not just 200 people, but they're paying money to support at some level 200 families. A CEO is, buying goods and services in the region, selling goods and services in the region, meeting people. They're out there. Whereas the pastor, is usually taking care of the people in the church and ministering to people in the church, counseling, preparing for a sermon on Sunday, stuff like that. Business leaders are out there with their products and services. So business leaders are really actually pretty strategic
Hmm.
for building, community outside the church and for getting the gospel to hearts and minds to people outside the church. And so I think bringing business leaders together in a region and nationally, because this is a national network too, not just regional, is probably one of the most strategic things, I could do with my gifts and abilities over Lord,
Hmm.
well, next 20 years, 20 years. I mean, imagine if we had 10,000 people join this Christian business network. The
Hmm.
impact we could all have together, the the
Yes.
the wealth of knowledge we would all have together, the relationships, the hiring, the building, the investments, the everything that's coming that can come from a bunch of Christians fellowshipping together as business
Oh,
leaders.
yes.
So and so that's why we've been doing these regional summits, and we've been averaging about 50-ish, 60-ish for our regional summits come. The goal is about to average about 75. We've had basically 40 to 75 is what we've been having. So about average about 50, 60. And so we've done one in Pennsylvania. We've done one in Nashville, state of Washington, in Bartlesville in Oklahoma in June. We're doing one in Moscow, Idaho, my hometown in August, doing one in Fort Worth in September. And then I've had three states, three different locations now reach out to me and say, "Hey, you need to bring your business summit here."
Mm.
And so part of what we're doing the business summit is just literally it's a Friday night, Thursday night, Friday morning event, you know, and you can use your business time. Most businesses support, business development for its employees, and so you can use your business time largely to come and attend. It's not we aren't trying to take up a whole day. We're going Thursday night after work. It literally kicks off with beer and psalms and fellowship and hors d'oeuvres, and that's Thursday night. And I got a couple speakers. Kind of Thursday, it's more like the exhortation, get excited about what you're doing and how God can use you for your business. And then Friday morning, we got some CEOs and some very subject matter experts talking about their business, what they're doing, and maybe things that you can glean from what they're doing and
Oh,
apply it in your own life. So it's been great. I mean, the content's been awesome. The people, it's everyday business leaders speaking from their heart on how they've developed their business and what they've learned. And so that's the gist of the event. Thursday night through Saturday, Friday about lunchtime, and then it's like go back to work, go home, whatever. And these business summits have been really an encouragement to me. I get to go to them all,
sure.
and I get to listen to all these speakers speak, and so it's been real encouraging to me too.
Man, I think that this is something that is so timely because this was one of the things that in right after COVID, because everybody was like believed it for a second, and then once you got down the pike a little bit, you're like, wait a second, I can't go to my small business can't open, but they can go to Walmart, or you can go to Lowe's, or you can go to these
Or the
different
weed
places,
shops,
or the weed shops, or you can
or
go
the porn
protest.
places,
Right,
whatever.
right. All these
Yeah.
places that I'm like, I can't go to worship. I can't go to my small business coffee shop because it's not, what's essential, what's not. And when we have a connection of Christians, building out and having kingdom-minded mindsets in the local communities, I think that genuinely can transform how a city looks. And Christians, like we've got to start banding together. I look at what they're doing in Texas. I see your Texas logo back there, but I know I see what like Islam is doing in Texas, and they're trying to
bro.
build out and like they're doing some. You talk about people got a post millennial mindset, like they believe they're taking over this thing, and I'm like, no, 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 this is not how this works. But man, they're actively trying to do some things. And what are we doing as Christians? We're just like, well, I don't want to offend somebody. I don't want to. I don't want to build out something too big. I'm like, you know, they'll think I'm charismatic or something if I go too big. I'm like, bro, we need to take back these spaces, and we need to
Hmm.
get get involved in such a way that we can actually make gospel centered change in the cities in which we
Hmm.
live. And I just think that what we're not doing is just speaking volumes. And I think what
Yeah.
your mindset is getting together with people, talking about these things, having these conversations, hearing from other people. And it like there's something about gathering together. It's just like coming to church. Like when you get
Hmm.
together and worship together and you sing alongside somebody and you hear the word being preached to you in the room, it's
Hmm.
just like, let's go, like you're
Yeah.
ready to rock. And so
Yeah.
being in these scenarios, being in these rooms like this, I think genuinely can and will help men and women
Yeah.
actually advance for the cause of the gospel.
Well, and let me add to this, and this goes off my point that business leaders really are the tip of the spear for the gospel in the church.
Mhm.
But the problem, what has happened, this is the other idea behind Business Makers Network, is that the church hasn't done a good job discipling their business leaders.
Mhm.
Think of business leaders are usually pretty strong-minded, pretty knowledgeable, pretty influenceable, usually have money, they kind of have in one sense a lot of power in the
Yeah.
community. And so I think in some senses, some cases, the elders have kind of put them at arm's distance because they're, maybe a threat or they don't know how to disciple them because they're pretty smart guys, stuff like that. Then there's just some insecurity there or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But, and then the only time maybe they really involve the business leaders is when they have a building fund. They need,
Pull the thermometer out. We're like, we're
yeah, with the
building
thermometer and
something
all this
this
stuff.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
As opposed to, and I would
Mhm.
say related to this, and you see this in the preaching too.
Yes.
Um, where I grew up. I was born in '79. I'm 45, turning 46 this summer. I grew up in the church and never really heard a sermon on taking dominion with your business. The sermons I did hear were, hey, work hard, have a good work-life balance with your family and work, and if you have money, make sure you're generous. And of course, you can find biblical principles, and Jesus talks about it. I mean, you can find real caution about money, and particularly Paul exhorting the rich to be generous. So you can find those verses. But the other side of that is Jesus gave us the parable of the talents, where you need to take your 5 talents and turn them into 10 talents, your 2 talents, turn them into 4 talents. You
Mhm.
need to take your $50 million company and turn it into $100 million company. That's you don't hear that sermon. And, what a crazy sermon would that be if
Yeah.
your
Come
pastor's
on.
in the pulpit and says, "Hey guys, God has given you these talents and you need to double it." That's
Yeah.
faithfulness. And
Yes.
if you just sit on your talent, you get the rebuke from Jesus.
Hmm.
Jesus rebuked that guy. In fact, he rebuked him to the extent that said, "Hey, there's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth for you because you buried your talent in the backyard."
Yep. Yep.
I would even go so far to say in that parable, there's a fourth guy there. The fourth guy, Jesus gave him 2 talents and he went and invested it and he lost it all. I don't think he would have gotten rebuked like the
Yeah.
guy who sat on his talent.
He,
Now,
he, he
Jesus,
tried.
he tried, and I think Jesus would have said, "Okay, you owe me 2 talents back plus 20% or something like that, but good try, and let's get it next time."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So he still would have had to pay back his master. But the point is that God put us in a world where He wants us to take risks,
Yeah.
and the thing He doesn't want you to do is to sit on it.
Yeah.
And the other thing to note about that parable, it is it's a economic agnostic parable in the
Hmm.
sense that if the economy is doing well, you need to be faithful. If the economy is not doing well, you need to be faithful. You
Yeah.
still need to take risks.
Yes.
So I think we're in a moment where Christian business leaders need to double down with their business, need to double down with what it looks like for them to be faithful. It'll be different per business, per CEO, or per leader. And I think we also need to just straight up admit that if Christians are faithful and they love their neighbor locally, it will change their city.
Yes.
That's the
Absolutely.
power of the gospel. Like there's so many Christians I think have hidden their light under a bushel. I remember growing up in the 80s and 90s, and a lot of Christian businesses would be like, yeah, I don't wear my Christianity on my sleeve, and kind of hiding their light under a bushel a little bit.
Yep. Yep.
And I think that that's an area of repentance that needs to happen. But also, I think if Christians are faithful and they do wear their Christianity on their sleeve, it's not the business's job in one sense to preach the gospel. It's not. That's the church, that's the elders, that's the
Sure.
pastor, that's
Yep.
their job. The business's job is to provide good services, good products to a community. That's their job.
Yep.
So do it well. And if you do it well in a Christ-like fashion, well, Christ is going to be all over your company.
Come on.
Christ is going to,
Yes.
the joy of the Lord is going to flow out of your employees, going to flow
Yep.
out of, what's the difference between, your company and your competitor? Well, that company I know loves their customers a lot better than this company. Well, why? Well, we're Christians, kind of thing. So I think if Christians actually just admit we are a Christian company, we love Jesus, we want to do the best we can, serve our employees, serve our customers, serve our stockholders, and we're going to do our best. I think that'll actually change the local community and the culture in your region in a way that is I think businesses have neglected that mission.
I 100% agree that there should be a level of in the community. They're like, oh man, like I can think of right now, like a couple different businesses that I'm friends with personally that they we're involved with them and doing different things. Whether it's, I mean, just the local coffee shop, and here's
Yeah.
what I can tell you about this local coffee shop that is amazing is when he bought it a few years back. He told me, he's like, man, we're doing better now than the thing has been than it's been done in years. Like we just have like well, I was there the other day, and this is one of the reasons why, like they're doing it. They're giving back to the community. They're helping. They're doing things that
Mhm.
are like, and most of the time it's the lines out the door, and people are like, man, we'll wait, and because they know when they get in there, they're going to be treated with like I told the guy who owns the company, I was like, I eat here a lot. I said, you know how you eat at a regular, if you go to a dining experience, you eat there regularly. Occasionally a restaurant will have an off time and you'll get, some okay food. I've never had okay food at this place. It has always been chef's kiss every time. And
Mhm.
they're just like they're unapologetic. I mean, they're playing psalms and hymns, and they're playing guys like Brian Sorvey and
Mhm.
different guys
Mhm.
over the music, and it's just like it's
Wonderful.
saturated with gospel centered stuff, and they're always doing things like that. But I mean, I got a friend who owns an investment business, who actually sponsors this podcast, and his whole mindset is like we want to help you invest in your money in things that help leave a legacy for your children and for your family, and to invest in things that don't compromise your values and your morals. Because some people
Mhm.
you can dump your money in certain things that maybe isn't is as ethically upright as it should be. Well, you don't have to worry about this because they're going to make sure and do the 10,000 hours of study to make sure you're getting your
Mhm.
work or getting your money's worth out of something that doesn't support LGBTQ garbage.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
there's so much stuff in that, and like everything's laced with integrity. Like they're not going to try to take advantage or put you in some sort of a position where it's going to make them a ton of cash but you just minimal cash. Like they're always looking out
Mhm.
for their customers and their clients. And I'm like, this is how you change 100%. Like you said, this is how you
Mhm.
change the city. And so I love that. So
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and you also just think about, I mean, just the basic gospel messages. If you, um, die to yourself, follow Christ,
Mhm.
um, things get better. If you don't follow Christ, things get worse. Just the basic kind of gospel message. You follow Jesus, He'll forgive you your sins. You have sanctification
Yes.
through the work of the Holy Spirit, stuff like that. If you don't, things are going to get worse. And when it happened for a long time, Christians thought secular society, the public square, it was kind of a neutral place where we could all kind of meet neutrally and kind of and everything. But what had happened is we also started just thinking that business is neutral.
Yeah.
You know,
No way.
Google is neutral. Facebook is neutral. Big Pharma is neutral and all that stuff.
2020,
And
2020 revealed that all to be a
yeah,
lie.
right. And so why, and I would say also, so my dad's generation, he was, I think his generation, job security was kind of a primary,
Hmm.
desire for them because their parents also came out of the Great Depression.
Yep.
So job security became so high, but what that also did was that meant my dad's generation largely went and worked for people who owned the infrastructure. And
Hmm.
so the non-Christians really kind of would build an infrastructure. And then here we are in 2025, and that pagan infrastructure with Google, YouTube, Facebook, Big Pharma, all that stuff. Well, Big Pharma killed a lot of people. There are studies that they're being exposed right now about how myocarditis, I just probably said it wrong,
Yeah. Yeah.
was caused by the vaccines, by the
Yep.
COVID
Yep.
vaccines,
Yep.
which we knew, but no one released the studies. And apparently, the Biden administration had been sitting on them.
Hmm.
And so the point is like if Christians own the infrastructure, that would have kept so much evil
Yeah.
out of our households.
Yep.
All the pressure of people getting forced vaccinated, all the pressure of people. My show got canceled from YouTube. I don't know how many times since 2020, 15 times, something like that. We just got suspended in January, this January from YouTube for a month or something like that. So the point is like we need to retake back the infrastructure and build businesses for the glory of God and be able to create good paying wages for dads to keep their moms at home so their moms don't have the pressure to go work, stuff like that. I mean,
Yep.
we need to
Yep.
change the game of how businesses change society.
Yeah, 100%. Because if we do that in the long term, and I'd say this often, when Christians run things, everything thrives. When Christians are in charge, there's more liberty.
Hmm.
When
Hmm.
Christians are at the, as you said, at the tip of the
Hmm.
spear, at the head of the organization, like everything goes completely different. When you've got
Hmm.
someone who is not a Christian, somebody that is that's a just in essence a pagan running the company, most of the time
Hmm.
you're going to have the blowback, down the rungs in the employee,
Hmm.
cesspool. But if you've got somebody that heads this thing, that says, okay, that is actively engaged, it says, I love Jesus, I love my people, and I want to see
Hmm.
the company grow in the city, it will transform like you said, it'll transform families, it'll transform business, it'll transform the economics of the room. The city itself will feel different. And I think
Hmm.
if we can take back, if Christians, and I've been on this for a little bit, and it's technically your fault that this all went down. So just thanks. I come to Fight Laugh Feast 2 years ago, and
Hmm.
it took me down a completely different road. Like I
Yeah.
said, when
Yeah.
we were not recording, the power of God's sovereignty and the internet. Like the first time I
Mm.
interviewed you, I was just like, oh, okay, I'm nervous. I don't want him to think I'm an idiot and just this little podcast guy. And now,
Yeah.
we're texting each other on almost a weekly
Yeah.
basis, and people don't realize you're actually hilarious, and I have a blast with you, and like you're running these companies, you're doing all these things that change. Like you guys are actually changing the city of Moscow for the glory of God. Like
Yeah.
that's an amazing thing to
Hmm.
see. And that's my hope is like that's been like the
Hmm.
thing that's been in my spirit over
Hmm.
the last year, 2 years. I was like, I want to
Hmm.
see the city different. In fact, that's our conference is coming up in March of 2026. Our theme is take back the city, and we'll personalize it. Take back your city. So the idea is Christian, you have a place to play. Jump in, and
Hmm.
God's give you gifts, talents, all these different things that you have.
Hmm.
Go advance for the cause of the gospel. So, all
Yeah.
right.
When you think about this, one comment on
Yep,
that, just real
yep, yeah,
quick.
yeah.
When righteous rule the city, the people rejoice.
Yes.
Proverbs,
Yes.
right?
100%.
That's it. When righteous people are prospering, and by righteous, I'm not talking about the fake Christians. I'm
Yep.
not
Yep.
talking about the
Genuine
Christians who are trying
righteous.
to play the game. Genuine righteous Christians, the people rejoice when, and that's if you want to love your city, be righteous.
Yes. And here's the deal. I don't know if you know this. Gabe and I are not perfect, but here's the reality.
100%.
The pursuit, the pursuit is I want to make much of Jesus. I want to be a better Christ follower tomorrow than I was
Hmm.
today. Like that's a normal prayer that
Yeah.
I pray is God, help me to love you better today than I did yesterday. Help me to pursue you more
Hmm.
today than I did yesterday. And if we
Hmm.
continue that in all areas, not just, not just in your church, but yes, but not just there, in your business,
Hmm.
in the places where you walk and work.
Hmm.
These things actually can transform things for the glory of God and the
That's
edification
right.
of
Yeah.
humanity in general.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, of course, I mean, part of this theology comes from as nice as I can put it, like a lot of our views and culture as Christians really kind of have been influenced by the premill view of
Yep, yep,
Christianity.
yep.
And that premill view tends to help, make Christians think short-sighted, tends to
Yes.
make Christians think in a temporary fashion, tend to think like, oh, Jesus is coming. I shouldn't build, I shouldn't waste my time building.
Yep.
But the
God's gonna
post-mill
suck us
view,
off the planet, so we just be done
yeah,
with
we're we got to do our best to
it.
kind of get the frozen
Yep.
chosen and get out of here. The post-mill view
Yeah,
is long-term thinking.
yeah.
Jesus is going to win down here. There's going to be more Christians in heaven than there are pagans in hell. And that long-term view that is what's so impactful in thinking of, okay, I can't change my city tomorrow, and I should pray for my city, love my city, raise kids up, have this long-term plan. I read this Table Talk article a long time ago, and one of the quotes that came out of it was, you know, is addressing guys. It says everyone wants to, slay the dragon, but no one wants to change the diapers. Well,
Mm,
in a post-mill world, the way to slay the dragon is change the diapers first.
yes,
Raise your kids first.
yes.
Raise faithful children from your own fruit,
Come on,
and then that's how you begin to change and to get to the point where you can slay the dragon.
come on.
Is you got to be faithful in little, and Jesus promises He will give you
Give
much.
you more, give you more down the road. Yes, absolutely. Like that was one of the things my son and I actually we were having. So all our kids came in from all the places they are, college and all the different places
Yeah.
this weekend, and just we celebrated and just fellowship together. And one of the things we had at breakfast this morning, we were talking about a church here in town that we had some pretty solid connections with over the years, and their minds. And listen, I have extra measures of grace for the pre-trib rapture
Certainly.
folks, because I
Love those
grew
brothers.
I
Yeah.
grew up there, so
Yeah.
I understand their mindset. But if you look at the church today, like my son and I were talking about it, I was like, like they've got almost no people there.
Hmm.
They've got
Hmm.
there's no influence in the city. They have no drive to want to advance the cause in
Hmm.
the area because they're like, well, I've heard it out of some of the leadership's mouth. We're coming up to the end. Jesus is going to take us all out of here. Why
Hmm.
try? Why try? And I always had the mindset of if Jesus is coming back, if he is going to rapture us off the planet, we better be going hard to tell more people about him. And now that that's shifted in my mind, and I'm now post millennialist, I now have this mindset of I want to see our churches just explode in growth. And here's the wild, awesome thing, because you're Presbyterian, you'll like this. Um, there's a couple of Presbyterian churches here in town that are absolutely on the verge of having their doors shut, because they've got woke teaching.
Mm.
They've all
Yeah.
got. I mean, if you go look at
Hmm.
the leadership board on their websites, all cranky looking women,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
and like they've got multi-million dollar complexes. Like 15 to 20 people go into church there, and they're on the verge of shutting their doors.
Mm.
The Reform, where we had the conference last year, Hope Presbyterian, they're bursting at the seams. They've got babies, coming out their ears.
Praise God.
They're everywhere. I mean, they're
Yeah. Yeah.
everywhere. and
Yeah.
there's young couples, and there's business owners, and I mean, I can think of at least 6 or 7 business owners that go to that church, and that place is
Hmm.
absolutely blowing up. And their leadership, who are really good friends, you met them here actually in my house. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're there's a lot of people that they're taking the Moscow motto, and they're moving
Hmm.
to Bartlesville because of the
Beautiful.
church.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, let's completely transform this place. And it happens
Hmm.
when we take back our churches like this, when we take back our
Hmm.
businesses, it can actually change the world. And
Yeah.
well,
Hmm.
but not the big world. Okay, let's talk about the world where you live, because that's honestly all we
Yeah.
really care about, is where the world where we live.
Hmm.
If you
Hmm.
transform your city, you'll transform your state. So let's
Hmm.
start small, like you said just a second ago,
Hmm.
in the small things, and then let's go big. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
all right,
That's right.
let's talk about how did people find out about the conference, about the Business Maker Summit?
Yeah,
Where
you
we
go
go?
to businessmakers.network, businessmakers.network, and you can click on events and you can sign up for Bartlesville. Those who are already members of the network get a discount. Those who are non-members, you can just buy a ticket for $100, real cheap. And we should have some good fellowship Thursday night with the kickoff. Both me and you, I believe, are actually kicking off with the first two talks
Come on,
on Thursday night, and then we'll have some after fellowship cigars and some nice fellowship afterwards. That's one of
love
my
it.
favorite parts, especially as a business guy.
Just connecting.
Connecting and networking with other business people is great, and the fellowship time is really been a lot of fun. And then Friday morning goes from about 8:30 to about noon, and then we'll go grab some lunch at a local restaurant afterwards,
Love it.
and everything. So we got some CEOs speaking Friday morning, and then some subject matter experts through our Gear Up talks and all that stuff. So it should be a blast. And go to
Love it.
businessmakers.network to join us.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, you guys, you got along with that. You guys are gearing up for Fight Laugh Feast. That looks like it's
That's
gonna
right.
be fun. The big town of Nashville. So
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
good. So, man, I
Yep.
appreciate you. Appreciate all
Yeah.
you're doing for
Thank
the
you, sir.
glory of God, bro. This has been good, and we're looking forward to seeing you in June. And we're gonna do a long form podcast. I'm gonna try to figure out how to make
Yeah.
this happen, because that way we can just go. We'll have a bunch of guys just sit at the table, and we'll just get after it
Bring them all in. Yeah.
and
Hmm.
just go after it and see what we can come up with. We may
Yeah.
it may have to be split up into 3 or 4, because I'm down for going for a while. So
Yeah.
it'd be fun.
Cool. We'll make that happen.
No doubt, my friend. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Caleb. Thanks for your time, man.